So this series is one of my favorites of all time, and it is a romance series. And I'd be like, oh my god. But here's the thing. It is a Korean manhwa, and it is really, really, really done good. And it's actually, apparently the author's done a series of very good titles. But the series is called Can't See, Can't Hear, But Love. And yes, I know that is horribly broken English, but that's fine. The title references the two main characters, one of which is a woman who is deaf, and the other which is a man who is blind. And they didn't start off life like this. They basically had the conditions happen over time. And the male character is a comic book author. So for him to go blind, obviously, is a really big deal. But the two characters end up falling in love and getting married and stuff like that. And it's really, really done good. It's a lot of real heartstrings pulling type stuff. I will say it takes a while to get going. It does take a lot of chapters. Not that it's bad at the start, but much of the meat of the storyline is actually told in flashbacks. It starts off being like, where the comic's currently taking place, and then there's a good middle portion of the comic that goes back and shows how the characters became blind, became deaf, everybody's motives, their family upbringing, blah, 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 stuff like that. And so it goes back and it does that, and it's really, really good once it gets to about the middle point of the series. But highly, highly recommend it. The characters in it grow on you really quickly. That's probably the strongest one. That's probably the strongest factor of the manhwa, is that it grows on you really quickly with the characters that seem really human. They seem really believable. They have flaws. They have, actual personalities. They're not just like archetypes or stereotypes. There's some characters that initially you hate and then you end up feeling sympathy for. Some that you feel sympathy for, but then you end up hating, and then back and forth. It's just really well done. And for those of you that don't know too, manhwas, Korean manga, etc., are read from left to right, like American comics are. So you got to keep that in mind when you're reading them, that you don't want to screw that up and read the wrong way, because you might do that and be like, why does this storyline make no sense? Also, if you haven't read a Korean manhwa before, I've always wondered if this is how it actually is. I guess notice my fucking camera's blurry. I've been looking up at the camera the whole time. I've always wondered if this is how it is, that like manga and comic books obviously are they are basically like, one page. It's like, okay, here's one page, next page, whatever else. And in manhwa, they seem to be, on the scanlations and stuff like that, just like a long fucking line. Just like it's only like 5 pages per update, but each page is like the height of like 10 pages. So I've always wondered if they actually are like that in book form, like if it's some weird foldable thing, or if that just started as a trend for online scanlations for manhwa and it just became the norm or something. I know that a lot of them are webcomics, and this is a webcomic too, so that might be why it's done that way, but that's still a really interesting way to do a webcomic, to basically stack like 6 pages on top of each other and do that, But anyways, the series is called Can't See, Can't Hear, But Love, and it's really good. So highly recommend y'all check it out. If you don't like romance, stuff like that, you're probably going to hate this, because this is like 99% romance, 1% action. But it's not lovey-dovey, flowery stuff. That's what's good about it. It's actually realistic romance. You know what I mean? It's like, if you want to see a very realistic portrayal of an actual relationship, you should read this, as compared to other series where it's like, harem type stuff, or really lovey-dovey, flowery stuff, or like way the fuck out in the ballpark exaggerated shit. So it's actually really well done. It's very realistic. So yeah, that's about it.